Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's mykenyanpuff, and today I'm going to talk about one of the most important, if not the most important thing you need to know about your hair. Forget about your hair type, but your hair porosity is very crucial in determining the technique you're going to use during your hair regimen and even the product you're going to use. So you might not find this video helpful, but really it is one of the most crucial videos in your healthy hair journey. So please be patient, grab a cup of coffee or tea and watch this video. I'm going to go through hair porosity, how to test it, the do's and don'ts of both extremities of your porosity, and by the end of this video you will know how to deal with your hair, and maybe you'll discover why some products or some techniques that are commonly praised in the hair community are not working for your hair. So if you're interested in that, please keep on watching. First of all, what is hair porosity? So hair porosity is the ability of human hair to absorb water and chemicals beyond the cuticle layer and into the cortex of your hair. Now, hair porosity can be and mostly is genetic, but can also be altered by processing of your hair, hair treatments, use of heat, and even coming into contact with the natural elements. There are three categories: low porosity, high porosity, and normal or medium porosity hair. Low porosity hair means that your hair cuticles are flat and the scales are closed tightly, which sort of prevents or makes it very difficult for water and products to be absorbed into your hair strands. It may sound like a bad thing, but technically low porosity hair is healthy because you have a natural oil layer that sort of coats your hair strands, which forms a permeable barrier that makes it a bit difficult for water and other products to be absorbed into your hair. Secondly, we have medium or normal porosity hair. As this sounds, it's just the normal porosity, which means your hair adequately takes in moisture and retains moisture. So if you have normal porosity hair, you are a very lucky person. Then thirdly, we have high porosity hair. Now high porosity hair means that most likely your cuticles are raised. Actually, it's a fact. Your cuticles are raised, your hair cuticles are raised, and your hair has a lot of tears and holes, which means that all the water and moisture and products that you put on your hair are very quickly absorbed and taken in, but unfortunately you lose water, moisture and products just as fast. So most of the times high porosity hair can be a cause of using heat too much, over processing your hair, maybe through chemical treatments. So now that we know the three categories of hair porosity, the next step is to know how can you test your hair porosity. Now the most accurate and scientific way of testing your hair porosity is actually a laboratory test, and it's called the gas sorption test. I don't want to get into the details, but this test is expensive, it's not really easily accessible, and so many people do not do this test but prefer to use more home DIY porosity test, and that's what I'll go through. So the first test is the water test. I'll call it the water test. So you have a glass of water and you take a clean strand, freshly washed hair, no product in it, a clean strand of your hair, and then you place it in the glass of water. If your hair sinks quickly to the bottom, you have high porosity hair because, again, as I explained, your hair absorbs moisture very quickly, so it will absorb water and sink. If your hair sort of sinks to the middle, then your hair is normal porosity. If your hair remains afloat, then your hair is low porosity because, as I explained, your hair struggles to absorb moisture, absorb water, so it will just remain floating. So you can do that test at home by yourself and determine your hair porosity. Unfortunately, the problem with this test is it's not very accurate for the following reasons. One, Most of the times when you wash your hair, there'll always be some residue of some oil or some product. So if you have oil, or especially oil on your hair, and you place a strand in the water, oil and water will repel each other. So most likely your hair will remain afloat, telling you that your hair is low porosity, and it might not be. Secondly, hair is naturally already less dense than water, so the chances that your hair will remain afloat are a lot higher. Thirdly is that the products used during your washing process have the ability to alter your porosity. So once you test the strand, it might not be as accurate. However, why not just try? And there are many more tests I will be explaining. The second hair porosity test is what I'll call the smoothing test. So on air-dried, freshly washed hair, just take a bit of your hair using your hands and just smooth down your hair shaft. Just run your fingers down your hair shaft, or if you have just one strand, put it between two fingers and run it down the hair shaft. Now, if your hair just runs down, if your fingers, just run down smoothly, it's a high chance that you have low porosity hair, because as I explained, the cuticles lay flat. So once you run your hands through it, it will just be smooth. If you find that as you run your hands through it, it's a bit bumpy, then the chances are you have high porosity hair. It's bumpy or rough because your cuticles are raised and you have some holes and tears as I had explained. So that's the second test to determine whether you have low porosity hair or high porosity hair. Now the third porosity test is what I will call the absorption test. So this is something very simple you can be able to deduce if you wash your hair yourself, is how fast does your hair take in water. If you wet your hair right now, determine how long your hair will take to dry. If your hair dries up very quickly when you wet it, chances are you have high porosity hair, because as I explained, you take in moisture very quickly, you absorb moisture very fast. If you have low porosity hair, it's very likely that your hair takes long to dry, especially after a wash day. Your hair takes very long to dry, and it takes very long to absorb the moisture or the water that you put on it. So if you try out these 3 tests, you will be able to get an idea, if not be very certain, of your hair porosity.